Hey everybody, so I'm Cal Banyan and board certified hypnotist, president of the Five Path International Association of Hypnosis Professionals, developer of Five Path, Seven Path, the secret language of feelings and all that stuff. And lately I've been getting people asking me, please tell your story. So, it's a story of ups and downs and frustration and relief and success. And so let me just go through it and give you kind of a heartfelt story of how it all happened. Well, it all started in a land far away and long ago. Los Angeles, California. Born and raised in Los Angeles, a small suburb of Southgate. And I grew up in a family that, gosh, what how do I say? They weren't exactly academics, okay? As I was going through school, I had no example, never saw anyone read a book in my home. Basically, it was television, TV dinners, and there was actually some very good food, but it was just not very academic. And so, as I grew up and eventually graduated high school by the skin of my teeth, and let me tell you, that was quite an accomplishment considering my background, because nobody in my family that I knew of had ever graduated high school before. So that gives you an idea of my humble beginnings. But after I got out, I really didn't know what to do with my life. Up until that point, I thought I wanted, like most teenage boys, I wanted to be in a rock and roll band. And even though I had the interest, I had the enthusiasm, I eventually discovered I didn't have the talent. And so what I did was I did like a lot of young men do when they don't really know what they want to do with their lives. I joined the military. And thank goodness I went in the military. It was the Air Force for me all the way. I actually started reading books and doing really well. And in a couple of years, I was a sergeant and I was like, wow, this is great. And then that came to its end and I got out, and wasn't too long until I met Maureen, who became my wife. And thank goodness for Maureen. I'll tell you right now, if it wasn't for Maureen, there would be no Banyan Hypnosis Center, because she is really the other half of my brain, or together we make a whole brain or something like that. More about that in a minute. So after we got married, we moved to, of all places, Carlstead, Minnesota, because we thought, it'd be nice to, get out of the city. And we were young, 24, 25, 26, that kind of age. And we went up there and made new friends. And one of my friends, and this person had such a big impact on me, Dr. Alan Fannin. Here was this guy, me, who had barely graduated high school, and my best friend developed to be a PhD in clinical psychology. And what an unlikely couple of buddies, right? But what that did for me is, as I'm hanging out with him, it dawned on me, I'm just about as smart as this guy is. To me, people who had degrees and stuff like that, they were like, you know, they had different genetics or something. Now, I had taken a couple of college courses when I was in the Air Force. In fact, one of them kind of really started me on the whole hypnosis thing. Well, actually, as I think about it, it goes back a little bit before that. As I was growing up as a boy, the I would hear stories about my grand uncle, that's my grandmother's brother, and how he was a hypnotist and he would hypnotize family members and things like that. And that was just very interesting. And what that did for me, I was never hypnotized by him, but it made it seem not so strange, because I knew my grand uncle, he's like a normal guy. And so I was never really afraid of hypnosis. Then when I was in the Air Force, I took the psychology class, and my professor just happened to be interested in hypnosis. And he said, hey, if you're interested in hypnosis, read a couple of books here, blah, blah, blah. And I thought that would be interesting. Maybe I could have a hobby hypnotist kind of passion like my grand uncle. And so I started reading some books. And I think the one that had the most impression on me were the writings of John G. Watkins. And he started writing about age regression and other kinds of techniques to help people overcome traumas of war and things like that. things like that. And so naturally, when I made friends with Dr. Alan Fannin, we'll call him Alan, he uh, he had some interest in hypnosis too. So there was like this constant thread of hypnosis in my life. And because of me getting to know him, and it really helped me with my confidence to think that, gosh, maybe I am pretty smart, you know. And then and I could read and I could study. And so eventually that led to me going to the University of North Dakota and studying psychology. I thought, well, maybe I'll be a psychologist as well. And I tell you what, that was terrible in the beginning because I had what they called imposter syndrome. It's like I'm walking around at the university and there's all these smart people there. I'm thinking, oh no, there's a part of me that says, what makes you think you should be here? You're just come from this kind of uneducated kind of family, and you barely graduated high school, and now you're in the university. Well, I just kept faking it until I could make it. In fact, it wasn't really faking it. I was just really, even though I felt like I was faking it, I was just starting to come out of my shell and get to know myself as someone that could really learn this way. And so, man, I dug in. Now, I had some weaknesses, like, for example, algebra. I almost died, but I was so determined that I was going to get this psychology degree that I had a tutor like 4 days a week, and I got through it. I got a good grade, and that helped my esteem a lot. And then I took college trigonometry, and then I took calculus, and then I almost died again and figured out, well, I was probably getting in over my head. And so I just took survey of calculus. Anyway, to get back onto the story about hypnosis, I graduated summa cum laude. That's like highest honors. It's like, that was really good for a guy like me who, thought he was going to be a bass player in the rock and roll band, then found out he wasn't going to have the talent to do it, and went in the Air Force as default. And now all of a sudden he was graduate summa cum laude. Well, my head got pretty big. And then I applied and got into a master's program at the University of North Dakota. And this was quite a coup because I was very stressed out about it because I didn't want to go anywhere else because I wanted to stay with my wife and my family right there in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I didn't want to go traveling. Most people, you don't go from an undergraduate in the same college to graduate. So I did really good. But then I was all that time in the bachelor's degree, I was thinking maybe I'll learn more about psychology and also hypnosis. I thought maybe when I'm getting my bachelor's degree in psychology, I'll learn the inside scoop about hypnosis. Well, I got all the way through my bachelor's degree and found out that, pretty much hypnosis and hypnotherapy have been relegated to the history of hypnosis sometime around Freud. So I thought, okay, now that I'm going into graduate school, now I'm going to find the inside scoop about hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And I got all the way through my master's degree. And I heard that one of the professors did some hypnosis in sessions, but never taught it. Oh, well. So went on to my PhD, and I got accepted to a PhD program. And in the meantime, I am doing work at the at Jamestown State Hospital as a psychologist, master's level psychologist. And I'm also doing some work in a group home. And I'm beginning to become a specialist in adult serious chronic mental illness. And I was burning out. I was burning out as I was looking at where I was headed as a psychologist. It looked to me like, my main job is going to be to do diagnosis and try to keep people on their meds. Not really what I wanted. I wanted to help people and see them change and all this kind of thing. So eventually I did all my coursework for PhD, and then I just drifted away, disillusioned with the whole profession of psychology. And but it was probably because I was so focused on seriously mentally ill adults. And it's just really hard. And you got to remember, this is like 25 years ago. And maybe there's better tech. I'm not beating up psychology. Lots of good psychologists out there do great work, but I was frustrated. And I thought, have I just wasted all this time? And I got a job as a family therapist, and that was great. I loved it. I actually did in-home family therapy. I was the last ditch person. If I couldn't go in there and save those kids, the state were going to take them out, and it was awesome. And so, but guess what? Now, Maureen, if you ever get to know her, she's not a country girl. She's just not. She's from Singapore, and Singapore is like Manhattan of Southeast Asia. And she put up with me living in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and she really, really wanted to get to something a little bit more urban. So we negotiated. We decided to move to Minneapolis. So we're going from Grand Forks, North Dakota to Minneapolis. And in order for me to work doing what I was doing, I'd have to get licensed in Minnesota. And that kind of took me back. I didn't want to go through all that stuff again, getting licensed and studying. It's like I'd had it up to here with that. And the call came back to me, hypnosis, hypnosis. Learned nothing about it in the bachelor's degree program, nothing about it except historical comments and master's degree or the PhD program. But it was still there. And I thought, if I could I'm in a situation right now where I could do anything I want. And so I started looking into getting training and as a hypnotherapist. And at the time it was like, okay, and it was hit or miss. And I wound up finding a course. It was a 7-day course, and I went through it. And it was a pretty good course. It's probably better than most. But the problem was, now, when one thing you learn in graduate school is how to educate yourself. It's like in master's degree and PhD, what you do is you do dissertations and you do thesis and these kind of things. You start off with finding out where the state of science is in the literature for the specific thing you're going to research. So you learn how to educate yourself on that. So when I graduated from my certification course, and I was now a hypnotherapist, I went at it. I was reading books and I was watching videos and I was listening to audios and I was opening the Hypnosis Center in Mounds View, Minnesota. 2,000 square foot facility. I had dreams. I had aspirations. There was room for 3 therapists in there, offices. We made it from scratch. It had a receiving area. It had video viewing areas where they can watch videos called pre-talk to help them get ready for the sessions. I mean, I had dreams. I was going to have hypnotherapists there. I didn't want to be the lone hypnotist. And I really modeled it after like the counseling centers and things like that where I had worked. And it was awesome. One day we opened the door and I realized I don't know what I'm doing. This was huge. It was kind of like when I was studying psychology and they'd put me in with someone to work with. I didn't know what I was doing. We'd learn about behaviorism and cognitive therapy and yada, 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 yada. But when you have someone in front of me, it's like, what do you use? And I was in the same situation after going through all that research. I knew about inductions and rapid inductions and guided visualizations, direct suggestion hypnosis, compounding, age regression, parts work, and on and on and on. And I had someone walk in and it's like, uh-oh, what am I going to do with this person? And I hated it. I mean, if I could have got away with it, I would have closed shop right then, because one of the things I hate most is not knowing what I'm doing, especially if I'm taking money from someone to provide a service and then to be unsure about what I was doing. I tell you what, having an accountability partner is a really good thing when you first get in this profession. And I had an accountability partner. It was my wife. See, once I told her I wanted to open a center, if I didn't succeed, I would never hear the end of it. So she was my accountability partner. And so there I was in this jam of having invested money, opened the center. And then when people were coming in, that was the real test. And I found out I just didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I told you, I'm a good student, summa cum laude. I know how to learn something. And so I was frustrated. I would see clients and I would kind of go by the seat of my pants, do some direct suggestion, do some age regression, do some parts work and stuff like that. And it was driving me crazy. In fact, it was scary. In fact, now here's a little secret. And I would sweat. I would sweat so bad that like I could only wear white shirts because you know what that can look like if you sweat, if you're in a blue shirt or something like that. And so I started wearing sport coats. Well, that just made me hotter and more sweaty. And then you know what my wife did? She went out and found these things. I'm going to call them armpit diapers. I know how embarrassing is that. I was so scared all the time that I'd have these armpit diapers in my sport coat. And it was like a totally intolerable situation. And I was very, very frustrated, angry, and depressed about the whole thing. And so, in addition to reading books about psychology and hypnosis, I was also reading books about business because I'd never owned a business before. And then, thank God, I ran across this book called The E-Myth. Now, the E-Myth talked about if you want to have a business, you should organize it like a franchise. And what a franchise really is a system. And you can learn more about that, read the book. But what it just popped in my head, I need a system. And I started looking at it that way. And this led to the development of 5-path. Back then it was called 5-phase abreactive therapeutic hypnosis. Now that name has changed because using the word therapeutic and abreactive, that can cause problems. So now it's 5-phase advanced transformational hypnosis. Okay. So I started putting together this system and I wanted to use the most powerful techniques available. And so like instant rapid inductions. And I found out that not everybody in the beginning, when I started doing instant rapid inductions, would go into hypnosis. And it really taught me that you need to do really good prep work. You need to, build rapport. You need to do a good pre-talk where they really understand everything they need to not be afraid, because fear inhibits hypnosis. So put together a really good phase 1, preparation, testing, then you hypnotize. Preparation, then you hypnotize them, then you test and convince the person that they're hypnotized. And wow, that was the best start ever. The next, we went into age regression hypnosis, the most powerful kind of hypnosis there is, really therapeutic processes. Now, in the beginning, before I had phase 1 really nailed down, I was doing age regression, but it was iffy. And it was iffy because I didn't have somnambulism, which is a deep level of hypnosis that's needed for real age regression, because in somnambulism, you can hallucinate, and an age regression is a hallucination. So once I put phase 1 together, then I had phase 2 working perfectly. Age regression was great. Now, age regression is not a panacea. It doesn't fix everything. Even when you fix all the stuff you can do with age regression, like get rid of limiting beliefs, get rid of fears, this kind of thing, other emotions can begin to pop up that will continue to drive the problem, like anger and guilt. Now, also, just a quick side note, as I was doing all this emotional work, like with age regression, I began to see a pattern, and I wanted to teach it to my clients so that they would understand why I'm doing this deep emotional work. And out of wanting to do that came the book, The Secret Language of Feelings. So now all of my clients, they get a wonderful pre-talk, they get hypnotized in phase 1, and I convince them that they're hypnotized. Then what I do is I'm going to do the age regression work, and they understand why I'm doing this deep emotional work to overcome the problem, to release them from these old habits and limiting beliefs and so on that lead them to success, because they're also reading The Secret Language of Feelings book. The next comes phase 3 and phase 4. And in phase 3 and phase 4, we really work on releasing the rest of the emotions that can be holding things up, such as anger and guilt. And phase 3 is mostly about anger. And phase 4 is mostly about guilt. And when you go through all of these processes, you get results. And another thing that happens is that it causes insight. And insight forces the subconscious mind into a state of reorganization as it accepts those new insights. Oh, I am good enough. I am lovable. There's nothing wrong with me. My brother had the problem, or my father had the problem, whatever it was. And when you go into that kind of uh, um, reorganization around these new insights, it puts you in a state of what I've come to call hyper suggestibility. And when you give suggestions that are congruent with those insights, then when those insights are accepted, then those suggestions are accepted permanently. And it just like this was, now I was doing the kind of hypnosis I always wanted to do. And success, 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 phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. But then there were the few that had problems. And with some study, I began to understand what was happening is they had secondary gain. Secondary gain, in a nutshell, is there's something going on in their life now that is either reinforcing the old habit or belief or demanding it. And so I developed a kind of parts work, which is designed specifically to go after the secondary gain, parts mediation work or parts mediation therapy. And boom, took care of it. So now I had a master plan, a masterful way to take anyone that came in for just about anything, know what to do. And I could just like exhale. And I could say, it's okay. I know exactly what to do and mean it. And it changed everything. Now, there was one sticking point. Ethically, I had gone a little bit wrong. And that is helping professionals should always seek to cause our clients to become independent, not dependent on the hypnotist or the therapist. And so I worked on that concept and I came up with an inspired work, really. And it was called Seventh Path Self-Hypnosis. Seventh Path Self-Hypnosis really does everything that Five Path does, except the person who learns how to do it can do it in the privacy of their own mind. And that was like, now I have a complete system. Then I started teaching it to the hypnotists at my center because I had hired some hypnotists at our center. Bam, they started getting the same quality results. Then I started teaching certification courses for hypnotists. Bam. Then, now we've got thousands of people that have been trained in Five Path around the world. People started coming to us and saying, can I train your course? And so we started having people actually train the course. I mean, I was nervous. I always look like I'm calm and well, most of the time, but inside I really have concerns like, are these people going to be able to teach it? And so I did develop a course for that. And we just have some wonderful trainers that have been training for years and years, training people around the world. We've got trainers, we got trainers in Europe and Canada and Asia. And it's like, awesome. I feel so good to know that people are being helped with Five Path and Seven Path self-hypnosis around the world that I could never have helped on my own. So then that turned into the Five Path International Association of Hypnosis Professionals that helps to regulate and train all that stuff. And that has really given me a feeling of excitement. People say, Cal, how do you get so much stuff done? And how come you're so motivated all the time? Well, I get to work with such great people, both clients, hypnotists, and our trainers. And that has just really given me a drive. One of my students, he is a surgeon. And one day he texts me and he goes, Cal, I'm going to be retiring soon. And it made me think, when are you going to retire? And I thought, and I text back to him, I said, you don't retire from a calling. And so my journey has really led me to my calling in my life. And really at the highest order of what I do is I help my clients remove the barriers so that they can live their calling in life. All right. That's it. That's my story. I'm going to stick to it. Cal Banyan, signing off.